Hello, friends and family. Before we get started on today's topic, I just need to take a moment to address an issue. So, after my last video, I got a phone call that was in the form of a complaint. And the nature of this complaint had to do with the fact that while listing those in my life who I genuinely love and care about and who are black and whose safety I have concerns about, apparently there's somebody I did not mention by name. Now, the reason I didn't, I felt like, was a pretty good reason. I hadn't asked his permission ahead of time. And I'm really funny about that kind of thing, about privacy issues. So, I didn't know how he would feel about being mentioned publicly by name in a video without his permission. Apparently, how he felt was that I should have mentioned his name. So, for the record, Alvin Armstrong, I love you. I care about you. Yes, I am aware that you are black. Thank you for pointing that out. And I am very, very concerned about your safety. Okay, now that we have that over with. So today what I want to talk about is the juncture of a few issues, how they come together, how they matter to each other. So I want to talk about Trump, GRSM, or what some people call LGBT issues. I prefer GRSM because it stands for Gender Romantic Sexual Minority, and it covers everything in the LGBT plus alphabet soup. So GRSM is just simpler to say. Anyway, so Trump, GRSM, the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and the vacancy that has been left by that. All right, so let's do it. Now, in getting ready for this, oh, sorry, I'm outside and I got a mosquito. In getting ready for this, I actually looked at an article that I will link in the description that actually goes through and details all of the anti-GRSM comments, policies, decisions by Trump during his presidency up to this point. There's 16 pages. It was my original plan to go through these, but my video would be hella long and nobody would watch it. I mean, and it's depressing, and it's more than depressing, it's infuriating. Going through these, I still want to talk about a few of them just because I want to give you a really clear idea of where Trump stands, because he likes to claim that no president has been a stronger champion of people in the LGBT plus spectrum, or the GRSM spectrum. He wouldn't say GRSM because he wouldn't know it. But anyway, so I really want to kind of go over a few of these, because I want you to understand, like, this is not somebody blowing things out of proportion. This is not somebody taking a couple little things and making a really, really big deal out of them. This is a big deal. Now, when you look at this list, there are things on here that are more severe than other things, obviously. There are some things on here that were not a direct attack, but the consequences of the actions have consequences for the GRSM community. And I think it'd be really easy to dismiss those, but the point of those really is that it sets a pattern of behavior, a pattern of decision making, and the importance of that is that it shows intent. If you have one or two or three things, you can chalk those up as lack of information, or difficult decision making, whether you agree with it or not, or other things. But when you have this level, this number of things, you have a pattern, you have a clear pattern of intentional discrimination. So, let's look at a few of these. Minutes after Donald Trump became president, after he was sworn in, any mention of the GRSM community was erased from White House, Department of State, and Department of Labor websites. I remember when that happened. And I remember my heart sinking and thinking, this tells us exactly what direction he wants to go in. And really being distressed about that. June 29th, 2017, reports revealed President Trump hired anti-transgender activist Bethany Kozma to the Office of Gender Equality and Women's Rights at the U.S. Agency for International Development. If you can't understand how this is inappropriate and hostile, then there's a whole other conversation that needs to take place. He hired an anti-transgender activist. And that the word activist there is really, really important. That means not just that she had some opinions that I would find offensive, but that she actively fought against transgender rights. She's an activist. And this is who he put in charge, or not in charge, I'm sorry, but put into the Office of Gender Equality and Women's Rights at the U.S. Agency for International Development. Guess who she's going to count as women? Pandemic. President Trump nominates Jeff Mader, who has an extensive anti-LGBTQ record, including calling trans children part of Satan's plan, to the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Texas. An official White House webpage directs readers to an article published by the Anti-LGBTQ Heritage Foundation that calls being transgender a psychological disorder. July 26, 2017, President Trump bans transgender service members from serving in any capacity in the U.S. military, threatening to fire 15,000 currently serving troops over Twitter. You know, I have two sons who served in the military. I know that people assume that if you are a liberal or you're on the left, that you don't care about military service. That is not the case with me. I honor those who serve in the military. And to tell somebody that they are no longer wanted and welcome, that essentially their service is meaningless because they are transgender, makes you a pretty crappy person. And to do it over Twitter. It's like breaking up with somebody over text. Who does that? Let's move on. I mean, there's pages and pages of this. Let's see if we can get out of 2017. Oh, except right here, October 16, 2017, in a profile on Vice President Mike Pence that ran in the New Yorker, President Trump reportedly joked of Pence when asked about LGBTQ rights. Don't ask that guy. He wants to hang them all. October 24th, 2018, the Department of Justice writes in a brief to the Supreme Court that it is legal to discriminate against transgender employees based on their gender identity, saying that banning sex discrimination under Title VII in the workplace does not extend to transgender workers. Guys, it just keeps going, and it goes, and it goes, and it goes. Again, I'm not going to read all of these, I promise. There's a few things that I do want to touch on really quickly. I don't even have to look them up. President Trump's decision that medical care workers should be allowed to refuse to treat transgender people. You no longer have the right to health care if you are transgender. The decision that the protections for transgender people, specifically when trying to get housing, were taken away. I don't know if you know that. I had no idea until I started investigating all of this. A decision under Trump to try to deny citizenship to an infant born through surrogacy to 2 gay parents here in Georgia. Now, we'll point out, in the exact same circumstances, except that as a heterosexual married couple, citizenship was granted every time. It's only been when the couples are gay. There is no way to claim that this man does not have severe problems with people in the GRSM community, especially those who are trans. He's made that really, really clear. All right, so what's the point? Well, the point is that with the loss we've all just experienced of Ruth Ginsburg, with the loss we all just experienced with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, her passing, there's now an opening. And she was the kind of person who I think we can all agree, her integrity, her intelligence, her compassion, her fierce will and determination. These are things that would already be so hard to replace. Her loss is, I was devastated. I'm still devastated. She's my hero. He wants to be able to appoint somebody now, before he potentially loses the election. He wants to get that Supreme Court packed with his choices. If you think there's any chance at all that he would avoid choosing somebody based on them being discriminatory towards the GRSM community, specifically towards people who are trans, then you're deluding yourself. In fact, one of the things that I didn't read here is that after the Supreme Court ruled here recently that transgender people could not be fired just for being transgender. So there was a Supreme Court case that just took place where several churches, including the Mormon Church, filed briefs and tried to influence the Supreme Court to rule that that if you were trans, you were not afforded protection from discriminatory firing practices. Trump, of course, made sure that the Supreme Court heard from his government as well, that this is what they wanted. Fortunately, the Supreme Court decided that, you shouldn't be able to just fire somebody just for being trans. That trans people should have the right to have a job and feed themselves and a place to live that they can afford with their paycheck, and access to health insurance, which also comes from having a job. That all those things are things that they do in fact have a right to as human beings and citizens of this country. I was very, very, very upset at the number of Christians who, I guess, decided that Jesus didn't want trans people to be able to work or eat. Anyway, when that happened, Trump released a statement saying how surprised he was because Gorsuch, who was his appointee to the Supreme Court, was actually part of the majority opinion on that. In fact, he had the deciding vote on that decision. And Trump was very upset that despite Gorsuch being his appointee, that they had still lost. And that's the way he put it. That's the way he felt about it. And so as a result of that, he turned around and made up a new list of potential Supreme Court justice appointees that specifically includes a long list of people who are anti-transgender. They were added to that list specifically after that decision, which tells you exactly what his intentions are, what he wants, what he's thinking. There are people out there who know more than I do about precedent and the way that things are supposed to work and the way that they have traditionally worked. I know this. In 2016, when President Obama attempted to choose a new Supreme Court judge, he was blocked. The Senate didn't just not confirm his choice, they refused to hold a vote on it. And the reason that they cited for this was that it had been so many decades since this had happened, since a president had tried to choose an appointee to the Supreme Court during the last year of his presidency, that it was now precedence for that to not happen. But apparently, 4 years later, far, far closer to the election, now suddenly it's no longer the precedence. And the reason that they're citing is because, well, now we don't have a split government anymore. We have a Republican, they're actually reasoning, we have a Republican-controlled government, and that makes it okay. The hypocrisy is astounding. Do what you've got to do, people. Vote. Contact your representatives. If you text RBG to 50409, there is a bot that is actually set up to send a letter to your representative saying that you do not want them to choose a new judge for the Supreme Court at this time. That's one thing you can do. Super easy. Takes about 5 minutes, maybe less. It asks you, what's your first name? What's your last name? What's your address and zip code? Do you want... That was a large bug of the flying and buzzing variety. I'm not sure what it was, but I wasn't happy about it. Anyway, but it, where was I? Oh, it'll also ask for your email address to expedite things. You don't have to do that part, but it does ask for your email address. And then it sends it for you. You don't even have to bother to write the letter. Super, super easy. Or you can do something really, really effective and actually make a phone call and talk to somebody and let them know how you feel. If you don't know who your representatives are, look it up. That's why God made Google. All right, guys, that's all I got. If you have something that you want to see me talk about, want to hear me voice an opinion on, whatever, please put it in the comments. If you have opinions, thoughts, suggestions. I got the suggestion the other day that I should improve the quality of my videos, and I agree. I just don't know how. So, like, this is the third video I've ever made. I'm trying. But by all means, if you have, like, concrete, and this isn't me being upset with the person, like, they're right. I do need to improve the quality. So if you know how to do that on a very, very limited teacher's budget, please, by all means, let me know, because I would love some suggestions on how to make these better. If you do like it, if you think it's worthwhile, then hey, why not hit the whole trio, the like, subscribe, bell trio, just for the fun of it. Anyway, I love y'all. Be safe, be happy. Make sure you leave all comments, gripes, complaints, observations about the universe, praise maybe even, in the comments below, and have a... Okay, so just make sure that you leave all comments, gripes, complaints, questions, observations about the universe in the comments below. I love y'all. Be safe. Be happy. Thank you for listening. Bye.